Because if you roll into experience mapping effort or journey mapping exercise and you're not prepared and you're going to ask vague questions, it's not going to help you out at all. And you're just going to end up with insights which are bare or they're too vague, they're not contributing to solving the problem or even defining a problem at that. Hey, what is up? Welcome back, Design Squad. And in this video, we're going to continue on experience mapping and specifically mapping journeys of the end user. Again, it's our bread and butter. If you haven't seen my previous video, the part 1 to this, be sure to watch it because it's an introduction of why you should do it, how you should do it on a high level, specific examples of what the experience map and kick-ass experience map ingredients are. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's always good to do a research and prepare the high level questions. You should arrive with a specific template. You should arrive with a notion that you roughly know what you're out to discover or out to map. Meaning you should prepare your swim lanes, you should prepare your phases, you should know what specific segment of the journey you are exploring. If it's not specific, you're going to capture a breadth and very high level pain points and opportunities, but not necessarily the specific bits which you can improve on. For example, a pain point could be, on a breadth level, it could be uncertainty of what to do next, right? But if you capture a specific touch point in the journey, an actual uncertainty pain point could be expressed with that, the mobile app we use to sign on actually doesn't give them a notification or something like that. That's a much more specific pain point you can tweak and work on. Of course, if you're running several workshops, that could be totally fine. There's always exceptions. It could be that you build on top of the experience map, and if at the first time you don't get what you're after, you can then run a follow-up, but it becomes pricey and costly exercise to keep on, digging deeper and deeper. So it's always good to prepare questions. It's always good to understand what's there, talking to people who might get exposed to it, or just doing research online, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. Reach out on Quora to specific people and ask specific questions about how they do, oil drilling discovery. What's their day-to-day look like? So you know roughly what you're speaking, and maybe even try to capture what language they speak so you can actually ask questions which are meaningful. It's not too vague, not too high level. You don't confuse them. You don't lose trust because you're asking about, how's your life or something like that, something ridiculous. Next is more tangible, and it's about preparation of a material. You must print out the templates. If it's online, make sure that the workspace is in a good condition for people to join. Test out the links, invite them way ahead of a session. Try to add as much information as you can. If you're not constrained by the time frames, you could start from scratch and you can kind of play around it, but it's always easier if you have some sort of notions to validate. Again, it comes from a hypothesis approach. At this point, you don't want to solutionize. You only want to chart out the uncharted territory. That's exactly what mapping is about. You're going to talk to the people, but try to think of what questions you're going to ask. Maybe you know that they use certain channel, certain method. Maybe you heard or researched from before that we have a pain point in a certain area. Without being too anchoring, try to kind of say, hey, I read somewhere that you do this and that, if we don't automatically talk about it. And they could be like, yeah, we do. Or maybe they could say, no, we don't use that at all, or we do something else. But you can see how you then uncover something more about it, because what's like a basic common sense to them might not be voicing it. And so you must prepare the material and perhaps even a discussion guide of what you're actually going to ask. Because then you're not lost, you're not wasting time. It's all in a good cadence, so it's bam, 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 everyone's engaged. Nobody's losing their focus, they're all attentive to you, and you can actually guide them as a facilitator, as someone who's actually experienced mapping. And now the last bit is to prepare the audience. I've seen so many juniors who just roll in, they might prepare the material templates, but when the users show up, or subject matter experts show up in the room, they have no idea why they're there. What do you need from them? They haven't thought of, a specifics. They haven't kind of contextualized their brain so they could give you as much information as possible. You must send out emails to prepare. You must follow up. You must remind them. If you schedule some sort of session, send out the bullet points of what roughly you want from them. Don't be too smart. Sometimes, let's say I would send an email and I said, oh, I want to experience map and capture your pain points and opportunities. And so depending on your savviness of your audience, they could be that they're, for example, moms and pops business who don't use any technology whatsoever. It could be elderly, let's say. So if you confuse them with your technical terms and jargon, you're going to lose them immediately. They're going to feel too intimidated. They're not going to trust you. And so when you prepare your audience, when you send your bullet points, consider who you're talking to. That's super important. And be much more friendly and approachable than being too technical in your jargon. I'll always recommend to summarize the bullet points and roughly the topics. What are you going to try to get out of it? Why it's important for you to get them all. You could literally say that, your inputs, your participation, your answers are going to help us shape this new solution. You're going to be a critical influencer. You're going to be a first user. You just add importance to it, add a zing to it so that we actually feel like, I'm actually going to do something about it. They're going to take much more ownership and they're going to participate much more willingly and trust you immediately. And so it could be that you need to follow up with a phone. It could be that you want to follow up with an email just before the session, just asking if they're actually going to show up. I had so many sessions where people would just forget if you schedule it in, let's say in advance, in a week in advance or so. You must build expectations from both sides and you must add trust to it. Another thing is to add time frames and time box it. Be respectful of the time. You might have an hour, maybe 2 hours. Sometimes you might have half a day or a day. It really depends where you're at. For example, if you have several phases you need to capture, maybe it's 3-5 phases with pain points, opportunities, and going in depth to it where you're going to be comfortable that what you capture is good enough, you must time box it. Maybe you're going to spend 10 minutes just going through the high level phases and capturing and validating if it's right. Maybe you're gonna go for the next 15 minutes through the pain points, decide how you want to run it. Maybe you're gonna give them the post-it notes and ask them to map it out for you and say, okay, what do you do in this preparation phase? What sort of steps you take? Give them post-its and say you have 5 minutes to do so for me. They're going to spend 5 minutes. You sharply cut and say you can always come back to it or run another session later on. So they're going to spend those 5 minutes. Then you can jump into pain points. Then you can jump into opportunities. You time box it. You prepare for that. But you also let them know that this is going to be sharply time boxed and that you're not going to spend more than an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever you agree, of their time. If you overrun and they're not fine with that, you're going to lose trust immediately. So you are the facilitator, or you are a designer who's mapping those exercises. It's up to you to manage the time frames and to let them know how much it takes. It's as simple as that. It's all about building trust. It's all about informing your audience. It's all about adding some extra preparation. It's gonna cost you time, of course, but it's a necessary preparation, because if you're all into experience mapping effort or journey mapping exercise and you're not prepared and you're gonna ask vague questions, it's not gonna help you out at all. If you like this video, be sure to check out the next episode. Depending when you're watching it, it could be that it comes out next week, or it could be that it already came out. If so, I'm gonna leave the link down below, and you can also check one of the floating thumbnails somewhere here. If you like this video, give a like, subscribe to this channel, and until next time.